A couple weeks ago, we went over Joe Biden's cabinet, and now that many of those cabinet members have been confirmed by the Senate, it's time to go over the other cabinet level officials. What makes these cabinet level officials different than the other cabinet members, the official cabinet members, is that they are not part of the presidential line of succession. That means that if Biden is out of office for one reason or another, they would not be considered to become the next president. However, most of them still need to be confirmed by Senate, and most importantly, they all hold important responsibilities, either within the White House or as the leader or advisor to a certain federal agency. If you want to learn more about the cabinet members, those who will be in the line of presidential succession and head a certain federal agency, you can watch my other video, which will be linked in the description and comments and in the top right corner of this video. Also, I'd really appreciate if you could like and subscribe this video if you enjoy it, as it really helps me out a lot. Without further ado, let's get started. Biden's pick for administrator of the EPA, or Environmental Protection Agency, is Michael S. Regan. Most recently, he served as the Secretary of North Carolina's Department of Environmental Quality. Regan began his career as the environmental regulator for the EPA during the Clinton and Bush administrations. He would be the first black man to run the EPA, and as the administrator of the EPA, Regan will be responsible for Biden's response to climate change, promoting new types of energy, and perhaps he will even be able to introduce his unique perspectives into how things like climate change disproportionately affect poor individuals of color. Overall, I don't have any qualms with this pick. I think that Regan certainly has the environmental and educational pedigree that qualifies him for the job, and I believe that he will be able to bring his personal perspective into this position. As the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Biden has selected Linda Thomas Greenfield. Thomas Greenfield most notably served as the Assistant Secretary of African Affairs in the State Department's Bureau of African Affairs. She received her bachelor's in art from Louisiana State, and went on to receive her master's in public administration from the University of Wisconsin. Before finding her way into the public sector, she taught political science at Bucknell. Thomas Greenfield has had an illustrious career in foreign affairs, serving as ambassador to Liberia and the Director General of the U.S. Foreign Affairs. Furthermore, she has done work in countries like Switzerland, Kenya, Pakistan, Nigeria, and Jamaica. In her recent Senate hearings, she did admit to regretting giving a speech to a Confucius Institute, which is essentially a Chinese outpost in a U.S. college. If you'd like to see a video on Confucius Institutes, be sure to like and comment. Overall, I think Thomas Greenfield certainly has a career pedigree to serve in this role. Africa and Asia are expected to see some of the greatest economic growth in the coming decades, and it is critical to ensure that the U.S. has good relations with these nations as trading, military, and political allies. It remains to be seen Thomas Greenfield's position on China, but the Chinese relations role will most likely fall to other individuals, including the President Biden himself. As Director of National Intelligence, Biden has tapped Avril Haines. Haines served as Deputy National Security Advisor and Deputy Director of the CIA under the Obama administration, being the first woman to ever serve in this role. She attended the University of Chicago, where she received a bachelor in physics, and later she enrolled at Georgetown Law and received her JD in 2001. She started out her law career as a clerk for the U.S. Court of Appeals Judge Danny Julian Boggs. She later found work in the office of the legal advisor of the Department of the State. From there, she worked in the Obama administration in those aforementioned jobs, and as Director of National Intelligence, Haines will be responsible for overseeing the National Intelligence Program, and she will also serve as an advisor to the President on intelligence, along with working with the National Security Council and Homeland Security Council. Furthermore, it is the responsibility of Haines, as the Director of National Intelligence, to prepare the President's daily briefing, which contains critical information from the intelligence community and other agencies. This position, from its establishment after 9/11, has consistently been strengthened under the Bush and Obama administrations. Overall, I think this is a solid pick. Haines has the pedigree and the experience to serve in this role, and like I've said before, when it comes to roles like national intelligence and security, I believe that choosing someone with experience is a smart decision. Next up, for the Director of the Office of Management and Budget, Biden has tapped Neera Tanden. As Neera Tanden is almost certainly the most controversial appointee to Biden's cabinet-level officials, I will probably have a few more comments about her. First, a little bit about Tanden's background. Both of her parents were Indian immigrants, and her early life wasn't easy as her parents divorced, forcing her mother onto welfare. Later on, Tannen received her bachelor's from UCLA and received her JD from Yale Law. Tanden has spent much of her life working with Hillary Clinton, first in the Bill Clinton White House, and later with Clinton's campaign for New York Senate and her 2008 and 2016 runs for presidency. Once Clinton failed to secure the 2008 nomination, Tanden pivoted to Obama's campaign, serving as the domestic policy director. From there, she served in the Obama administration as senior advisor to the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. More prominently, Tannen helped found the Center for American Progress, CAP, and has served as its president and CEO since 2011. The CAP is a policy researching and advocacy group that typically has a liberal stance on issues. And now on to the fun part, talking about all the stupid things Tannen has done. Tannen hasn't really done herself any favors for working with Republicans or even progressive Democrats. Most famously, Tannen has been almost as outspoken on Twitter as the outgoing president Donald Trump. She has vigorously attacked many Republican legislators on Twitter, calling them names and just acting in an unprofessional manner towards them. I agree that a lot of these Republican legislators are certainly not the best, but I just really don't understand how being disrespectful towards them will fix any problems for anybody. But it's not just Republicans who dislike Tannen. Many of Bernie Sanders' campaign staffers have criticized the nomination of Tannen, and in 2019, Sanders himself wrote a letter to Tannen accusing her of maligning my staff and supporters and belittling progressive ideas. Furthermore, she has had emails leaked where she criticized Harvard law professor Lessig when he was considering running for president, stating, you know the word, hate that guy. Not only that, but she has been accused of fabricating emails and texts in the past. Furthermore, in 2018, during a CAP company meeting, she revealed the name of an employee who had been reporting sexual harassment at the company. Now, that is incredibly disrespectful for something that can be very personal and sensitive. Looks like she certainly learned controversy from Clinton. As director of the Office of Management and Budget, Tannen will have quite a large responsibility for not just producing the budget, but also working between programs and agencies to make sure all policies align and work with one another. And if you couldn't tell already, I really don't like this pick. It's not that I think Tannen will necessarily do a bad job leading the OMB, but I just think all signs point to her being an insensitive and outspoken person. And outspoken isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I really don't think it's right when you're making enemies on both sides of the political aisle. I really don't understand this pick, especially for the Office of Management and Budget, and I only see it essentially as a political debt being paid off for Tannen's unwavering commitment to the Clintons. If someone can explain the merits of this pick to me, please do. Because I get that Tannen does have political experience, but there are dozens of other people who have that too, and have half of the controversy. Katherine Tai will be the U.S. Trade Representative under the Biden administration. Both of her parents were born in China and grew up in Taiwan, later moving to the U.S. Like many fellow cabinet members, Tai graduated from Yale with a Bachelor of Arts and then received her JD from Harvard Law School. She ended up working for several law firms, and she was also a clerk for U.S. district courts. She became trade counsel for the House Ways and Means Committee after serving as a chief counsel for China trade enforcement. During the Trump administration, she was instrumental in working between the House and the Oval Office in the creation of the USMCA trade agreement. As the trade representative, Tai will be responsible for coordinating trade policy and conducting trade negotiations at multiple levels. This means that her roles will have to do with the economy, agriculture, business, working with international partners, developing nations, and trade organizations. I think Tai's nomination represents Biden's acknowledgement of the importance that countries like China and Taiwan will have in the future of the United States trade policy. I believe that Tai's family background and experience will be valuable to this cabinet and to her personal perspective on trade. Overall, I like this pick, but it remains to be seen the future of trade policy under the Biden administration. Certainly, this trade policy is important to the future of not just the United States, but the world as well. As the administrator of the Small Business Administration, Biden has selected Isabel Guzman. Guzman represents a great variety of backgrounds, coming from Mexican, Jewish, German, and Chinese descent. She received a bachelor's from Wharton, continuing the chain of Ivy League-educated individuals making their way to Biden's cabinet. Clearly, those who preach that Ivy League education is dead aren't looking towards the current state of politics. Like many others, Guzman served under the Obama administration as the Deputy Chief of Staff to the Administrator of the Small Business Administration. That's a mouthful and a half. Other than that, she was the Director of California's Office of the Small Business Advocate. The Small Business Administration has always been one of the less prominent and publicly discussed agencies, but if anything, the current pandemic has demonstrated both the importance and vulnerability of small businesses. Therefore, Guzman will have a lot on her plate, including billions in funding if the latest stimulus packages are passed. Therefore, it is her role to really have the Small Business Administration step up and take a more active role in dealing with the economic ramifications of the pandemic, especially for those mom-and-pop stores. Normally, I would have liked to see someone with a little bit more small business experiences themselves in this position, but I believe that this pick is completely appropriate given the circumstances and time period that we are currently living in. There's no time for messing around or learning the ropes, and it's of my opinion that Guzman's experience will be very useful right now. For the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, Biden has chosen Cecilia Ruse. Ruse is a prominent economist and the dean of the Princeton School of Public and International Affairs. She received her bachelor's for economics at Harvard, and then following that, a PhD in the same topic at the same school 6 years later. She served under the Obama administration as part of his Council of Economic Advisors, and also in the National Economic Council during Bill Clinton's presidency. Outside of these positions, she has worked at Princeton University in economics and public and international affairs, as mentioned before. The role of her proposed job under the Biden presidency is pretty self-explanatory. She will lead the team of economists that will help advise Biden on economic policy and prepare the annual economic report of the president. Again, another pick that I have no objections to. For a field like econ, I believe that experience is integral, and Ruse certainly has those qualifications. Her experience working with 2 former Democratic presidents and past and current educational positions clearly demonstrate her abilities for the job. This is one of those picks that's hard to look at with an objective lens because of how different parties and different individuals have such varying economic beliefs. For example, a Democratic Party member would most likely believe that this would be a very solid pick, as somebody who helped pick up the economy from 2009 to 2011, while Republicans might criticize the Obama recession recovery period as not being strong enough or being too wasteful. All of that being said, I believe that there are much less economic differences between the parties than the media would have you believe. If you look at Obama and Trump's GDP growth averages by percentage, they're very similar numbers. Both had to weather certain difficulties and recessions, and both had bountiful periods as well. In the end, I think the Fed has to do a lot with the health of the economy, and that unless there is particularly great or terrible policy crafted, then the economy for the most part will just keep chugging along by itself. So that little tirade aside, I think it's a very safe and smart pick to have Ruse as the chair of economic advisors. Eric Lander will be the director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy and Science Advisor to the President. Lander graduated from Princeton, where he was valedictorian. Following that, he attended Wolfson College, Oxford, as a Rhodes Scholar. A lifelong mathematician, he later related this field into biology, where he helped develop algorithms and analysis of genomics in biology. Lander also established the nonprofit Broad Institute, which is a collaboration between MIT, Harvard, Whitehead Institute, once again in the study of genomics. This has led to much breakthrough research in animal gene structure, along with cancer and other types of diseases and genetic conditions. Furthermore, Lander has spent time teaching at both MIT and Harvard. He has been recognized as one of the most important and influential biomedical and genetic scientists of the generation, receiving several positions, awards, and recognitions for his studies and work. This is the first time that this position has been elevated to cabinet level, which I think represents the growing importance that technology and science hold in our modern society. As a science advisor, Lander will be tasked with advising and providing his opinion on the important scientific and technological issues related to the presidency. Lander certainly has experience, and I think that he brings a combination of medical, mathematical, and technological knowledge to this position. It's hard to criticize somebody much smarter than you are, and Lander is obviously one of the brightest minds in the nation. The White House Chief of Staff is going to be Ron Klain. Once again, Biden turns to an official that he worked with during Obama's presidency. Klain served as chief of staff to Biden from 2009 to 2011, also to Al Gore from 1995 to 1999. Furthermore, he served as the White House Ebola response coordinator during that epidemic. Biden obviously trusts Klain a great deal, as he worked as a senior advisor to Biden's campaign throughout 2020. Klain received his bachelor's from Georgetown and later received his JD from Harvard Law. Like many other lawyers who have found their way towards politics, Klain first served as a law clerk for the Supreme Court Justice Byron White and later the chief counsel to the U.S. Senate Committee on the Judiciary. This meant that he helped oversee things like Supreme Court nominations, criminal law, constitutional law, and more. I feel like this is a less policy-oriented post and more of a management-style position. It's certainly an important role, and while Klain is definitely not the most exciting pick, it's certainly not an unexpected decision for Biden to go with Klain and enroll in the cabinet-level officials, as Klain will have a big say in the personnel and flow of information and people. The fact that Biden has selected 2 Obama-era administrators for the top 2 advisory roles demonstrates that fact that while he might be willing to listen to more unique and progressive policies, in the end he is sticking with what he knows well. That isn't necessarily a bad thing in the eyes of some people. Experience certainly works, but I think it shows the colors of Biden's presidency in that it should be a safe trip, but maybe not an exciting one. So that is all for Biden's cabinet-level officials. How do I feel about these public officials? Probably the same way about the cabinet members. I think that there are some good picks, and again some bad picks, but I think that, once again, Biden's true colors are displayed. There are some unique picks for the less important positions, but the most important roles are filled with people who have been loyal to him, or at least his wing of the Democratic Party for their whole career. And I'm not saying that like it's a bad thing. All I'm saying is that like politics often plays out, Biden's whole attempting to bridge the gap with progressives and Republicans at this point seems more like a charade rather than the reality that he's actually pushing towards. But it's still early, and perhaps I'm wrong in that assessment. In the end, there are a lot of factors that go into politics and government, and the cabinet and cabinet-level officials make up just a small aspect of that. More importantly will be Biden and Harris's work with Congress and their specific policies and directions of the federal agencies. Currently, out of these cabinet-level officials, Avril Haines is the only individual who has been confirmed by Senate. Obviously, this fact might have been changed by the time that you view this video, or by the time that this video has been uploaded, and while it is very unlikely that members will be rejected, it's certainly possible, especially for maybe one individual in particular. You know who I'm talking about. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, be sure to give it a like and subscribe, as it really helps me out a lot. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you like these cabinet-level official picks? Are there any that you really don't like? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, thank you and have a great day.